Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world as you're listening to this recording. Obviously, if you're here live, it is 7 p.m. Tuesday Pacific Standard Time. And we have a wonderful episode today. It is mentoring new clubs. And for those who are regulars on Tuesday Talks and Tips, our presenter, speaker, guru, wizard, all the names, yes, is Trish Wells. She is a familiar face for many of us. She is Pathways proficient on visionary communication and one other one, plus she's working on other paths there. And she is the chair for District 3's help desk, which provides not just help for District 3, but several other districts around the world. She is one of the most generous resources, and I get to use with her, I get to use one of my favorite words, plethora. She has a plethora of pathways information. She presents things in a way that you listen and you say, aha, yes, that's right. Why didn't I think of that? So tonight, I'm looking forward to Trish speaking about an orientation for new members, for people who are just joining Toastmasters, an orientation to pathways that is clear and concise and just right, not overwhelming. My introduction has obviously been overwhelming in the sense that I am always overwhelmed with someone as generous and as knowledgeable as Trish. So let us all welcome Trish Wells.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to go ahead and get started with my share. And no animation, I promise. Okay. You should be able to see the charter and club orientation for pathways, correct? Is somebody give me a high sign that you can? Okay, I just want to make sure it got through. I always love, I need that second screen so I can see what everybody else is seeing. All right, let me give you a little bit of background and explain to you how I want to present this material tonight. Our club extension chair approached me about coming up with something that could be used in chartering new clubs. Obviously, these, for the most part, are brand new Toastmasters. They know nothing about the legacy program, but will often be working with people who do know something about the legacy program. And the request was to try to come up with something that would ensure that these brand new members and clubs get on board with a good representation of pathways, but not let the existing members get too bogged down or distracted by legacy material. So this is something that I have put together. It's designed to be an 18 to 20 minute presentation that can easily be done then in a 1-hour session with these new clubs at any point during the chartering process. For brand new clubs or for fairly new clubs that have never had a pathways orientation, this is also intended to be useful in those areas. And there's a whole package. It's actually scripted with the slides already ready, with the handouts already, prepared, and it's out in our District 3 Pathways online library, which, if you're looking at this page that I'm first showing, is the third item down on the upper list of resources. So this actually has 18 pages in it. I'm not going to use the animation tonight. If you use the regular PowerPoint, there is some animation on the slides, not a lot, but a little. And so to explain, The idea here is this could be presented in one of three ways. The presentation that you're going to see me do tonight focuses on new chartering or brand new clubs that have not had any exposure really to pathways. So agenda items 1 through 4 is what you'll see tonight. The 5th agenda item is provided for additional inclusion if the presenter has additional time, or again has about 90 minutes then to prepare to present. And it includes things that come out of the navigator about what's beyond your club and how do you earn your DTM and so forth. So it's easily expandable. There's also a few extra pages at the end. If you are chartering with a club that is going to have some existing members in it, there is about 3 or 4 pages at the end that can be brought up if you get questions from existing members in terms of comparing to legacy programs like the Competent Communicator that could be helpful in answering those questions. So again, it's a very versatile presentation, but what I'm going to show you tonight is what we're focusing on here, and that is for new clubs or chartering clubs where the members are, or the potential members are primarily new members with no legacy experience. So let me pause. I don't have the chat up anymore. So Michelle, you'll have to keep me honest if there are any questions or feedback from the chats.
No worries. Right now, nothing yet. And
Okay.
You know how I am. I will get excited and interject as soon as I see something.
Okay, thank you. I did have the chat window up, but it has disappeared, and I'm not going to risk losing anything at this point to move on. So let me go ahead and present this as though I would be presenting it in a new club situation. Okay, so this is our agenda for today, and at the top of the agenda, which is the page that you're getting as a handout as well, you will find the most frequently requested links that we get related to pathways. We recommend that you bookmark these links and visit them frequently for new materials. Here are some things about these links that you may not yet be familiar with. The top of the District 3 Pathways page includes links to both the support team email address and the District 3 Pathways online library, where tips and tools are continually being posted. There is no login required to access the library. All clubs and members are encouraged to use and distribute materials, and of course have an alarm go off in the middle. There is no login required to access the library. All clubs and members are encouraged to use and distribute materials they may find helpful. Secondly, the District 3 Pathways team supports a Facebook page and user group where the latest updates for Pathways are posted and connections can be made with other Pathways users. Also, I'm recommending that you check out the Pathways Tuesday Talks and Tips. These are weekly informational sessions held and recorded by an international group of Pathways coaches and champions. Each episode features a Pathways leader providing insight, instructions, and advice for leveraging the features and benefits of the Pathways learning experience. Today, we're going to focus on how to talk about Pathways and explain how you will be learning in your Pathways experience. We'll talk about how to onboard new members, and if you're an existing member, also how to make sure that you can log in successfully and make your path selections. This will include accessing your World Headquarters profile and your path selection. We'll talk about Basecamp and the transcript that you will find there, which is your personalized learning space that will be created for you by Toastmasters International. Here you'll find transcripts, content, and many resources. We'll also talk about our level 1, your very first level learning, the Mastering Fundamentals level, and that will be common to any path that you may choose. Item number 4 will be to talk about how you're going to begin your learning journey and some tips and best practices that we've put together for navigating the learning modules. Time permitting, we'll explore what you can do beyond your Pathways journey and beyond your club, but we'll get into more of that later, assuming we have time. First, let's talk Pathways. We are an organization that builds communication and leadership skills and gains confidence through experiential learning. Our members learn by giving speeches, practicing leadership, and through the giving and receiving of feedback through evaluations and mentoring. Public speaking is core to our history and will be present in all learning paths. And while confidence isn't a learned skill, it does become evident as experience is gained, and therefore is also present in all learning paths. Since 2005, our education program has included both communication and leadership focus. Therefore, the first step in discussing the educational program is determining whether the prospective member has a preference for emphasis in communication or leadership skills, or both. If the desire is to focus on communication, then is it public speaking or interpersonal communications that you're most interested in? If it's leadership, is it strategic or visionary, or managerial and tactical that's most important to you? Here in District 3, we've resorted the list of paths that you see on the right side of the screen based on their core competency weighting, which better aligns communication focus paths and leadership focus paths. Therefore, when you're talking pathways and you once determine what the member is most interested in, if it's communication, you'll naturally lean to a selection from the list of communication paths that you see at the top of the right. If it's leadership, then you'll choose a path from the leadership section, which is there on the bottom of the right-hand side. A couple of call-outs here. You can see at the top of the list that if you're purely focused on communication and public speaking, then the two most highly rated paths would be engaging humor or presentation mastery. In fact, presentation mastery right now is still our most popular path. If it's leadership, again, you can see the weightings to focus on either strategic or management. So hopefully at this point, you're getting a better feel for where you might want to take your Pathways journey in terms of path selection. Let's show now how a path actually breaks down. We're looking here at the presentation mastery path. Each path will focus on a skills-driven progression through 5 complexity levels of learning. Completing the 5 levels results in an increased proficiency of the member in both technique and confidence for that skill. Level 1 begins with mastering fundamentals. Here you'll develop speech content and speaking style that will lead to successful public speaking. Through repetition of these fundamentals as you move on to other paths, the iterative learning occurs, ensuring continuous emphasis on the skills most critical to successful communication and leadership. In level 2, you'll learn more about your own personal style. Here you'll be challenged to self-assess your current abilities related to this path, exposing opportunities for growth that will be expanded on in the next levels. In level 3, your knowledge will start increasing by expanding the skills aligned to the path purpose, but also adapting the learning for personalization through the use and selection of electives. In level 4, you continue building skills. Here, you'll broaden and build those skills by nudging yourself outside of your comfort zone through an additional combination of required projects and elective projects. And lastly, level 5, where you'll start demonstrating the new expertise that you're developing. Here, you'll be challenged to demonstrate growth not only through practical experience, but also by sharing insights from your journey with your peers. Educational awards will be received with the completion of each learning segment, levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And they will culminate with achievement of the proficiency certification upon completion of the entire path. It all starts by going online. You'll need to be able to access your account at Toastmasters International. We're going to first talk about brand new members accessing their account. And in the animation, we'd be stepping through the actual login process. But today, we'll talk about the first step for every Toastmaster being establishing that access to their membership profile and their online learning content. Accessing both of these areas is most easily done through the September 2019 enhancement for onboarding new members through a single login point at the primary URL of toastmasters.org. Here you'll click the login, enter your username, usually your email address from your application. We'll use the reset password option to create your password. And once you finish logging in, you'll click on the welcome at the top of the page to access your member profile and your Basecamp entry options. From there, you'll be able to select a choose your path option and answer the 3 questions. You'll start by indicating the preferred language you want to use for learning, also choosing your preferred learning space, online or print, and you'll select your first path. Again, presentation will be recommended since it is the most popular, or you'll be able to select from any of the 11 paths available today. Finally, you could take an assessment and receive 3 recommendations for your path selection and choose from one of those 3. After you make your path selection, you'll be offered the opportunity to go back to your profile to maintain your account information and other settings, or learn more about membership benefits by viewing the navigator. If you choose to go directly to Basecamp, you'll go in to access your online learning content, also known as your transcript. For existing members, if you have never accessed your profile before, remember it is most easily done through the landing page at toastmasters.org. Again, clicking login and entering your credentials or resetting your password if you've never logged in before. Clicking on the welcome and then following your choices of accessing Basecamp. If you're a Basecamp manager, accessing that portal, or choosing paths or learning more about your membership benefits in the navigator. If you haven't updated your profile recently, make sure to check your profile settings and take a look at your achievement history. See everything that you've done and also everything that you have laying in front of you with pathways. If you've been ordering from Toastmasters International, that's also where you will find your supply order history. So lots of good information there in your profile. Just a reminder, once you have selected your path and you're looking at your profile page, you'll have basically 2 choices. You can choose option 1, go to Basecamp, which will take you to the Basecamp landing page with the 5 blue tiles. Here, you'll be able to access any of the categories presented on the tiles. You'll also see your educational transcript in the burgundy titled box. And take note of the suggested education box to its right, because when you're eligible for the Toastmasters Mentor Program, that's where the enrollment option will appear. If you choose option 2 from your profile page to go directly to your transcript, then it will bypass the landing page and go directly to your transcript page, where you'll see a list of your currently selected paths, and if you've been in Basecamp before, any other resources or content that you have recently reviewed. You'll also have access here to your universal profile. You'll see mine in the example here with the picture. Yep, that's me, real small face, but that's me. And then there's also to its immediate right, the account settings, which is where you'll be able to enter your functionary roles as you complete them. But let's stay focused right now on learning. As of September 2019, all level projects across an entire path are available for activation with one exception. The final Reflect on Your Path project cannot be activated until levels 1 through 5 are fully completed. Path levels and their corresponding projects can now be worked on in any order, and level approval requests can be submitted to Basecamp managers also in any order. However, level completion submissions to Basecamp managers must be completed and submitted to your Basecamp managers for approval in sequential order, meaning level 1 first, followed by level 2, followed by level 3, followed by level 4, and finally level 5. Also displayed on the curriculum dashboard, you'll see your curriculum progress wheel, which indicates the percentage of your entire path that's already been completed. You'll also see current status on each of the projects, and each one will carry with it one of the 5 project status indicators, which are automatically triggered by the learning environment system. Not activated will mean that the project is awaiting registration with the learning system. Registered will mean that the project has been activated but not yet accessed by the member. In progress means that the project has been accessed and learning is underway. Pending prior training means that the project cannot be activated until other dependent projects have been completed first. And finally, the completed status, meaning that interaction with the module content has occurred by the member and they have completed the assessment before and assessment after, both of which must be completed by the member before the project can be marked complete. Once you launch a learning content module, we have found some best practices from our members in using and navigating these content modules. You no longer will have to worry about setting pop-up blockers or disabling pop-up blockers, because now all content modules are launched as new browser tabs. To exit a module, simply close that browser tab and you'll be returned to any other active open browser tab available. There are 2 options for navigating the learning content modules. You can use the left and right chevron icons that you see on the lower image to move page by page through the content. Or towards the bottom of that, you will see a select to move to another section navigation pop-up list, where you can then skip to specific sections of the learning module content. However, there are standard selections on this list that are important to remember, especially if you are trying to move quickly to find something. The standard navigation options on this pop-up list are introduction. That will always give you an introduction to this content module about what its purpose is and what you can be expected to learn. Your assignment will always take you to the module purpose, its overview, and you'll have the option there to print your project, your entire project. The assess your skills before is one of those assessments that I pointed out needs to be completed before a module can be marked complete. You'll also have the option to go to complete your assessment, which includes your project checklist if you're one of those checklist kind of people that want to be able to mark off as you do things throughout that learning process. Your evaluation will always take you to your evaluation form and also another location where you can print your entire project. And finally, the assess your skills after is the second assessment that must be done before your project can be marked complete. Two of these menu options that I find that I use constantly are the assess your skills before and the assess your skills after. I personally like to go in and complete my assess your skills before I have looked at any of the content in the module. I don't want to be biased. I want to know exactly how I rate my skills about this topic before I've seen any of the learning that I'm supposed to do. And then, of course, once I complete the last step in my project, I need to go in and go immediately to the assess your skills after, fill out that assessment so that my project can be marked complete, and I can move on to other project work. It's important to remember that members control when a project is marked complete by interacting with the content, the learning module content, completing the assess your skills before questionnaire, and completing the assess your skills after questionnaire. If you take nothing else away today, make sure you take those 3 points so that you will never get hung up waiting for a project to automatically be marked complete. You as the member have entire control over making that happen. I also mentioned early on that you learn by receiving feedback. And one way that you do that is through the evaluation forms that are associated with each project that you'll complete. Pathways has done a phenomenal job in making evaluation easier to learn. 2013 World Champion of Public Speaking, Prez Vasilev, reminds us that becoming a better speaker comes from being a better evaluator. Toastmasters founder, Dr. Ralph Smedley, felt evaluation was so integral to our success as an organization that it's number 4 on the list of Toastmaster promises that we all make when we become a member. However, I will share that it took Dr. Smedley 12 years to put a structured approach for evaluation into written form for members to learn. Pathways is evolving the evaluation approach to make it even easier to learn by establishing a consistent language and standard criteria for structuring that feedback. 2 words that you'll see and hear frequently now are content and style. And these are both criteria that are used when we are judging the world champions of public speaking. Great speeches consist of interesting and relevant content for the audience, delivered in a style that inspires and encourages message retention in an enjoyable experience. But what does a great content or style look like? Pathways evaluation forms provide a consistent set of measurable criteria that helps speech evaluators prepare feedback based on these 8 standard categories. But let's start with the front page of the evaluation form that you're looking at right now. You'll see at the bottom, you have an area to compile your notes for your oral evaluation. Think of this as a continue, stop, and start assessment of the speech that you've just heard. You would want to tell the speaker what they did well that they can continue on, what they might want to consider stop doing that didn't work too well, and ideas for what they might want to start doing that they haven't considered or didn't demonstrate with that speech. But this page of the evaluation form may still seem challenging for new members. So we're going to jump to page 3. Don't freak out. On page 3, you'll find the 8 standard categories for evaluating content and style. Content is primarily made up of audience awareness. How well did the speaker craft to engage the audience and promote understanding with their speech? It also consists of interest. Here, it's evidence that the audience was fully engaged with the speaker. And well supported, meaning that the speaker gave us something meaningful with a clear purpose in a unified whole in their presentation. When we're talking about style, we're talking about the other categories. Clarity. Specifically, did the speaker use the right word choices for this audience to ensure that they understood their material? Vocal variety addresses tone, speed, and volume. Eye contact. How well the speaker interacted and made contact with the audience. Gestures. Not just body language, but sometimes also other physical tools or props that can be used. And the confidence level, not of the audience, but the speaker's demeanor and confidence in getting the audience reaction that they were looking for. This approach benefits all members, regardless of their skill level at creating feedback for speakers. By consistent use of these categories, we accelerate becoming better evaluators. By consistent use of these categories in every speech, we accelerate becoming better speakers. And new members have the benefit of seeing the descriptions of what constitutes good, better, and best performance by the speaker using the 5-point scale. These categories are flexible enough to allow for trends in speaking styles, such as the current trend towards storytelling. So this evaluation approach will live long and prosper with Toastmasters. It's time for a Pathways quiz. Pop quiz. Now, obviously, the answers would be hidden in the animation, but I won't read this all to you. I'll just let you take a look at the types of questions that are here for the pop quiz, but they reinforce some of the most important points from the presentation. And then we close again with the list of resources and the orientation agenda of what we've accomplished today, and then do a time check and a Q&A check to see whether or not we have time to progress any further. And that concludes the formal presentation as it's been scripted. I'm going to pause here and take a big breath and a drink of water. Michelle?
Thank you. And would you need this, or can you take off the screen?
Nope, I can take off the screen.
Okay, because we all have these little tiny faces. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I have a couple of points, but before I get started on mine, I'd like to open for comments or questions or clarifications, either from our regulars or from our first timers. I see some who are, I think Maria, this is probably your first time, maybe. Although I know you've been wanting to come in, but missing the schedule. I think this might be your first time. Donna, is that Donna, my Donna? Is that District 7 Donna, or is that another Donna? It's only Donna, there's no last name. And Clarice, District 33, I think same district as Dennis. So maybe because I'm sure that Clarice, this is your first time. Do you have any questions or comments or clarifications? Yes. Okay, well, no clarification yet from Clarice, but she's saying it was an excellent presentation. But of course, like I said at the start, it was an overwhelming introduction because we have an overwhelming presenter. Thank you so much, Trish. And Donna, oh, it's another Donna. Donna, District 54. Wow, I think if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time that I've seen a District 54 come in because it's a bit late over in your part of the world. What is it now? It's 9 o'clock over there? Yeah, it's about 9:30 now, right, Donna? Or something like that, Illinois, yeah, Central. Okay, so folks are saying it was great. What can I say, Trish? There are no questions. There are just comments. Maybe we'll, oh, I know that Mary's always good with a question. Always. So we'll hand it over to Mary. Mary, you're still muted. You'll need to unmute yourself.
In the chat, my question.
You did? Where are you? Wait, Mary, it must have been way up. Mary, are you sure? You're chatting with us? Because
no, she was chatting with me.
Oh, okay, good. Because I'm not seeing anything, and I would believe anything after what happened with my Zoom.
I thought I had it. Oh, what are functionary roles? Let's see who I had it. It's going to Trish.
Yeah, Trish. Go ahead, Trish.
No, I might have misspoke when I got to that section, or perhaps I wasn't clear. When you go into your account settings in Basecamp, you'll have the option at the bottom of loading the dates for any functionary roles that you have completed and want to record. So if it didn't come out clear, I apologize. It's functionary roles.
I think Mary is asking, what do you mean by functionary roles? Because not
like Toastmaster, general evaluator, timer, right? Okay, those types of roles.
There you are.
Okay.
Okay. Keep me honest. I appreciate it.
Okay. The other thing, I did something similar speech about to ask yourself 3 questions about your speech. And first of all, is it analytical? You know, that means that's the content, you did your research. Is it creative? That would be your vocal variety or your props or visual aids. And then I have the third is it practical? And these are, it's easy in Toastmasters for practical as if you're within your time limits. That I call that practical, where everybody gets a chance to speak. But I've seen that in the business world, you know, which you come up with ideas that you ask yourself those questions.
I like those questions.
Is it analytical? Is it creative? Is it practical?
So Mary, I'm guessing that you're adding to what Trish was saying. It's not a question, right? It's like an add-on.
Clarification, yeah. It's about, well, the only thing she didn't really say about, she had about the first 2, but she didn't say about the practical. And I guess that would be the time limits. But maybe that goes without saying for Toastmasters. Make sure you're on time.
No, I was just trying to stick to the pathways evaluation form, but I think your points are great ones that would be part of a, you know, club culture, part of what you do, mentoring, you know, people.
And Trish, I know that you only have one screen, so let me read a question from Donna from District 54. She says, I believe you mentioned this presentation is used for charter clubs. Have you also used it for new members, or do you have a different format that you use?
Great question. And I will admit that this presentation actually came about from all the club visits that I was making and work that I was doing with new members. If you have seen me present in this forum before, you probably recognized several pieces. The use of the core and core competencies sheet with the communication and leadership, the approach that I use in explaining the evaluation form. So this presentation is actually where I'm landing on for going through the last 6 months of the transition period, and intend to make it multi-use. Whether I'm meeting with members, whether I'm meeting with a new club, or whether it's used by the demo team in chartering a new club.
Yes, thank you, Trish, because if I may just add on to that, I was thinking if this was really totally new, I would probably not go in that much detail about world champions and all that, because new members, I mean, totally new, would go say, what? I'm just here to develop my public speaking, and you're talking about contests. So yeah.
No, I wouldn't spend a lot of time explaining the world championships, but we do hold the world champions up as role models. So I'm okay with mentioning that, but, you know, but it's a good point.
Dennis, he's doing his smile again. And if my read is right, whenever Dennis smiles like that, he has something to say.
I guess I want to confirm that, can we download these slides from the District 3 site?
Absolutely. There's no login or anything required for the online library. You can go in and help yourself to anything that you find useful. You'll find a new folder out in the library now, specifically labeled for new and chartering clubs, and that's where you'll find this presentation as well as all the handouts. I've turned the most useful handouts into PDFs so that they can be easily downloaded and printed from there.
And Trish, you know what I'm probably going to say. This, you know, the people who are here live is just a fraction of the people who actually benefit from these Tuesday talks and tips. So may I request that after this presentation, sometime in the next few days, post those links on the Pathways discussion forum. You might actually want to create a unit for yourself. Tell me if you can do it. If not, then I'll create one for you, because the units are easier to find. People can just scroll down and look for that particular unit. But definitely, if you could, please share or reshare. I know you've already done it, but we have over 10,700 members now. So you never know who saw it, who did not. Resharing on the Pathways forum will be a great thing that you could do. Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you volunteered to help on recording, because my intent in putting this material together was to do learning units on our Facebook page. So I will put them on the Pathways discussion forum if you'll help teach me how to do that.
Yes, and I'm just going to shout out Carol in case you'll be listening to this later on. Carol, I've never done I've done the Tuesday Talks and Tips unit 7. So yes, it is so amazingly intuitive. I have to hand it to Facebook creating that. This is one of their best additions, the units.
Yes. I also went to record this session so that it can just be played. If somebody can't handle doing the presentation, they could, play it then for a group too.
Yeah, and they can go have a cup of coffee and just let Trish do it. you ought to start charging royalties.
No, I just want to know, that this is going to be accessible. All of this content, like I said, has been very well received. I've received so much positive feedback in our district and in other areas where I have presented this, that I felt it was time to get it all captured, and put it somewhere where everybody could have access to it if I'm not around anymore.
Yeah, let me see. I have several other questions, but
okay. I'm sorry.
Go around and see if anybody else No other question yet. So folks, those online live right now, I have a lot of questions, but if you have, please just unmute yourself or put it in the chat. So in the meantime, we're waiting for more questions. Trish, I wanted to ask you, how are you seeing, I know this is not really directly, but it's directly related to new clubs. How are you seeing new clubs now, knowing that Pathways is soon going to be the only show in town versus before? Before Pathways, are there more prospective clubs? Are there about the same, or are there fewer?
Good question. And I'm actually going to get hung a little bit on this one because, as you know, I've had some health issues that I've been dealing with, and so I've been out of the loop a little bit for the last couple of months. But my challenge here in District 3 is getting the demo team, or the club extension team, to adopt this approach, because we know it has worked so well. We saw a huge jump in our adoption by club officers by using this material at the last 2 club officer trainings. We're over 80% now club officer adoption, which is ranking very high worldwide. What we're not as high in is new members getting onboarded and adopting Pathways. And I think that there's 2 reasons for that. One is the way they do the calculation that I think makes it hard to see a consistent trend in that. But the other is because the demo team or the extension team hasn't adopted this material yet. They asked for it, but for some reason I'm having a challenge getting the material in their hands where they can use it. So another reason for me to just say, to heck with it, I'm going to make it available to everybody. And if I get more adopters from outside of our district using it and can get more feedback that way, I'm all for it. So in my experience, when I'm talking to new clubs, I haven't talked to any chartering clubs yet, but when I talk to the new clubs, they get a presentation like this from me and they hit the ground and start running with it. So my limited experience, just from what I've been able to do in hitting the road shows with the clubs, has been extremely positive with this material. It's another reason I'm so excited about putting it together.
Wonderful. One of the reasons I ask is I have seen districts, I won't mention names or numbers, but I've seen districts where the number of new clubs is dismally low. And they point to Pathways as the reason. And I always feel that it's an unfair scapegoat.
I agree.
And just shout out to District 75, the Philippines, if you're listening to this, they had a little bit of a rough start with Pathways. They actually had a kind of an informal relaunch of Pathways, because the first year it was like nothing was happening. But then, incredibly, they've had, I think, I might be missing on the count, but as of the last time I looked, they had 11 or 12 new clubs since July. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Right? I mean, how many new clubs is that in a month? So, considering that they had a rough start with Pathways, that relaunch, whatever they did, wow. Can you imagine 11 or 12 new clubs since July? And we're only, and I think I saw that data last month when they were congratulating the 11th or the 12th club. So that's not even 6 months. So it's two new clubs a month, 2.5 new clubs a month. So obviously it's not Pathways' fault. Like you said, there is something about how the leading by example, how the communication is happening or not happening.
Most of my experiences in chartering new clubs, including when I was the marketing officer for the district, was with corporate clubs. I just have an affinity for them. I started 6 of them in the corporation that I work for. So I just have a natural, affinity and way of communicating with the corporate environments. And they'd be all over this. I would have no problem going in and presenting this. So for me, if I was the marketing officer again, which I'm not right now, but I would be out chartering all kinds of clubs using this approach, because to me, it just calls out to any corporate club situation as a very adaptable, very relevant experience program for what they're trying to get their employees to become.
Which of course brings that, I was going to say age-old, that over 2-year-old lament about what's happened to Toastmasters. Now it's just becoming a corporate learning experience, what's happened to the community clubs. I am searching for somebody who could speak on starting new clubs with focus on community, and then somebody else who could speak about starting new clubs with focus on corporate. I've tried to reach out to past international president Pat Johnson, but unfortunately I believe she's very busy. I haven't had a response yet. Maybe you could be that person. I didn't know. I know you have a plethora of skills. I didn't know that was part of your toolkit as well.
No.
Now,
but see, I wouldn't have any. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I wouldn't have any problem taking it to community, to a community club either. We've talked a lot about this, in this group, is that you have to identify what the need is. So if you're talking to people who are really just trying to improve their public speaking skills, or lead, chair their HOA committee or something like that, there are so many nooks and crannies, even within Pathways, traditional, yes, and absolutely within Pathways as well, that you could point them on. I could take the presentation mastery path sheet and talk to a community focused club, and then talk more about the electives and how to pick projects with fundamental leadership, qualities that wouldn't require that they lead some big project, for their company or whatever, but lead an HOA committee or their book club committee or whatever. I remember talking to a member about starting a book club and pointing out what leadership projects that they could use in their Toastmasters experience in order to get educational credit for the work that they were doing. So never give away your stage time. Always get some credit for it towards an educational award. And that can easily be done if you take the presentation mastery path and focus on going into more, in depth in the elective choices then and how to use them. So there would be my advice for a community club.
Great. I know that you're going to have, I missed that earlier, but I know you're going to have surgery next week.
Yes.
But soon you might have me knocking on your door to do a session about starting new clubs, because this was wonderful in terms of it was a step ahead, but just backing up to how do you start a new club? What are the things you do? What are some tips and all that? I think that would be great, especially because we have several people who are still working towards their DTM, and that might be the only requirement they have left. They might have done their HPL, they might have completed their district service. They're just trying to do either sponsor a new club or mentor a new club. So, hey. And earlier I was going to say, I cannot believe we're at that point again where I look down at the clock and go, who stole the hour? But yeah, the Grinch did. We now have just a few minutes left. Last chance, if anybody has one quick question or comment, please quickly unmute yourself if you do. And I am not seeing anybody unmuting or asking. So Trish, maybe this is your time to wrap up and give maybe a final message about this on this topic. Over to you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Haven't I talked enough yet? Let's see.
Oh,
My,
Trish, I'm sorry.
no.
I'm sorry, Trish. Before
Oh,
you do that, I know you don't see the chat. So this is, I think, I know you would love to answer this. From Donna, I am in both a community club and I was browsing the online library. The Where Did the CC Speeches Go presentation is one that I will be giving to my club. And that is a common statement. Sorry, my chat disappeared. There.
nope, I got it.
Since that is a common statement that our members give. Thank you. Oh, it's another thank you. It's not a question. What can I say, Trish? Okay, so back to you.
Okay. What's always important to me, what I try to remind everyone, and I'm just going to start making this my mantra, talk to your members. Find out what it is they need. Existing, new, chartering, already chartered, whatever. I always like to start off with a question. What are you expecting to get out of this? And that so much drives how I talk to people then. I'm comfortable enough with the nooks and crannies of our educational program, legacy or pathways, that all I need to do is grab a list or grab a one sheet and I can sit down and talk to someone. But it all starts with asking that question. What are you expecting to get? And then helping them find it. If you master that skill, you will be able to easily recruit new members, start new clubs, grow this organization, and continue to fulfill our mission.
Wow. Thank you. Seriously, you are doing a fabulous job, not just in District 3, but all over the world. Your brand of realistic optimism, where you don't say, oh, everything's great, but
No.
you actually drill down and you look, like, for example, this thing about where's the CC. Donna is confirming that that is a very common question.
And thank you, Donna.
Yes. You drill down and wow, Clarice is saying, what are you expecting to get? Excellent point. Trish, what can I say? And by the way, for those who are listening for the first time, part of all of this knowledge and data bank that's in Trish's head is because she has earned 5 DTMs in the legacy program or traditional program and is obviously working towards her Pathways DTM soon. So thank you so much, Trish. And I want to say this online. I wish you the best in your upcoming medical procedure. I'm sure you will breeze through it and end up maybe training the hospital staff. You might even recruit people to Toastmasters while you're recovering.
So we'll see about that.
Or maybe start a new club in the hospital.
There you go. There's a club. That's a good point. I don't know that there's a club at that hospital. I'll have to check into that.
So. Yeah. For everybody who's watching this either now or later, that is the kind of inspiration that we can all use. Always looking at the opportunities rather than the issues or the problems or the little concerns. Thank you again, Trish. And next week is the session that I mistakenly announced for this week. So if some of you came in and said, she said last week it was conducting speechcraft in Pathways. My bad, I was wrong. That is next week. That is December 10, Tuesday, Talks and Tips, episode 24. That is going to be very interesting. A panel discussion on conducting speechcraft in Pathways using Pathways materials or a combination of some partially legacy, but mostly Pathways materials. So make sure that you block that on your calendar. For now, I will now be wrapping up the recording, but we'll be here for a while. So to everyone, goodbye, good evening, good night. And where is the clicky for recording? There you are. Thank you again.